Hey folks, it's Lillian Sawyer here. A lot of my students have been asking me how to use scales, how to practice with scales. So here's 3 ways that you can use scales in your daily practice routine. So first, we want to establish that we know and we can play whatever major scale we're going to be working with. And we really want to be doing this in all 12 keys. I know that seems really daunting, and you're probably asking yourself, oh, but when am I ever going to play in the key of D flat? And you might not, but I can promise you that if you do practice in all 12 keys, you'll have better facility, better technique, better knowledge of the fingerboard, more improvisational freedom, so many benefits from doing this. And if I asked you, play a D flat major scale, and you can do that, that proves that you have like a good general foundational knowledge of scales, which you'll need if you want to start getting into more advanced conceptions of music theory. It all starts with scales. So we know our major scale, and the 3 examples that we're going to be working on today are what I call permutations. And these permutations are available for any kind of scale. So if you're working on minor scales or any kind of modal scales, these can be just as effective there as they are with major scales. We're going to be working with the G major scale today, and just in case you're unfamiliar with how that goes, I'll go ahead and play it for you now. The first permutation that I'd like to draw your attention to is made like this. We have our starting note, which is G. We go up 2 scale degrees and then go back down a third and then continue on the next scale degree up. A useful tip is that you can also think about going up or down a third, just like skipping a note on the major scale. So just to reiterate, we start on G, we go up 2 scale degrees, then jump back down a third to G, our starting note. Then we move up to A, go up 2 from A, jump back down a third, returning to A, move up again, and so on and so on. That sounds a little complicated, but it's pretty easy actually. I'll go ahead and play the whole ascending part of the major scale using that pattern. See, it's not too bad actually. Now, we'll do that all the way up the scale until we get to F sharp. And on F sharp, we'll be starting on F sharp, then we'll go up 2 scale degrees, which takes us to A, which is technically above the octave, and that's okay. So we'll go F sharp, G, A, back to F sharp, and then we move up to G, and that's the top. At that point, we're going to turn around. So once you get to G, we're going to turn around and our pattern becomes inverted. So every direction of interval that we were doing while we were ascending is going to be the opposite now. So when we went up before, we're going to go down. And when we went down before, we're going to go up. So starting on G, we'll go down 2 scale degrees, jump back up a third, back to G. Then we'll go down 1, starting on F sharp. On F sharp, we'll go down 2 scale degrees and then jump back up a third, and so on and so on. And that is the whole of the first permutation. I'll go ahead and play the entire ascending and descending part of the scale using that pattern. Now, I gave you a couple hints just to get you started on what the notes are, but one of the really great things about this type of scale work is it really forces you to think about, okay, well, what are the actual notes of the major scale that I am playing? It's not just about sort of rote muscle memory guiding you through the scale. You have to think about like, okay, well, is it a minor third? Is it a major third? What are the accidentals of this scale? So I'm not going to really spell the notes out too much for you guys. Part of this is going to be you figuring it out and learning it for yourself. That's where a lot of the value of this kind of work comes from. Our second permutation is a little simpler. We start on the note G. We go up a third, or you could say skip a note. Then you go down a scale degree, up a third or skip a note, down a scale degree, up a third or skip a note, down a scale degree, and so on and so on. Now, I'd like to give this pattern a name because it serves as the foundation for a lot of other more advanced scale work we can do in the future. I'm just going to call this one up on the way up, down on the way down, and that will make more sense later on, but that's what this pattern is called. Now, when you get to F sharp, you'll do just the same as before, where it will take you above the octave to A, and then you go down a scale degree landing on G, and then once you hit that G, you're going to turn around. And this pattern behaves just like the last one. When you're going down the scale, you're inverting. So when you were going up before, you're going to go down. And when you're going down before, you're going to go up. So in totality, this pattern will sound like this ascending and like this descending. Listen closely. All right, so on to our third permutation, and this is branching off of the last one that we worked off. And this one's getting a little spicy here. We're going to call this one up then down on the way up, down then up on the way down. All right, so just like before, we're going to start on the note G. We'll go up a third or skip a note. But instead of going down a scale degree like we did in the last permutation, we're going to go up one more. And so now we're on the note C, and then from there we'll go down a third, landing on A. And that's the end of the pattern, and we'll continue it starting on the 3rd degree of the scale. So just to be clear, the first 4 notes of our pattern are G, B, C, and then A. We'll go up a 3rd from our first scale degree, and then we'll go down a 3rd to get to our 2nd scale degree. This is why it's called up then down on the way up. And that's why we'll be starting on B, our 3rd degree, as the next starting note for the pattern. Now, when we get to F sharp, this pattern is also going to take us above the scale. So starting on F sharp, we'll go up a 3rd, takes us to A. We'll go up 1 more scale degree to B, drop back down a 3rd to G, and then at this point, this is where the pattern gets reversed. So now that we're at the top of the scale, we're going to invert the whole thing just like we've been doing before. Where we were going up before, we're going to go down, and when we were going down before, we're going to go up. And so just to illustrate that, we're starting at the top of the scale on the note G. We'll go down a 3rd to E, continue 1 more scale degree down to D, and then back up to F sharp, and that's the pattern which will continue starting on the note E. That's why this is called down then up on the way down, because we go down a 3rd and then we go up a 3rd. Now, I'd also like to point your attention to the bottom of the descending scale, which is you can actually complete the pattern. So what I'd like you to do is the last descending 3rd will be A to F sharp, and then instead of going down another scale degree, we're just going to return back up to G and start over on the ascending scale. Now, that's all getting a little convoluted, but I will go ahead and play the descending part of the scale for you to illustrate that, and it will all make sense. Now, just a little addendum to show you what's possible with this kind of scale work, building off of the last 2 examples. There are a few more permutations we can work with. We could do down on the way up or up on the way down. We could do down then up on the way up or up then down on the way down. And I'll go ahead and show you what those sounds like. And if you want to try and figure them out on your own, that would be awesome. If you'd like me to break down those last patterns more concretely in another video, let me know in the comments and make sure to give me a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. Well, that about wraps up everything I have to say in this video. Working on those 3 permutations and being able to do it in all 12 keys is quite an undertaking and should take you a little while to do. if you've never done this kind of scale work. So if you have any questions, drop me a line in the comments. And thanks so much, y'all. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.